Hey guys, Eckhart's Ladder here, and I figured I would do something a little bit fun today. Not to say my videos aren't normally fun, but, you know, even a little bit more fun than they usually are. Today we're going to be going back to look at one of the ultimate Star Wars trolls, SuperShadow. If you were a Star Wars fan in the early to mid 2000s, you probably know who SuperShadow is. For those of you who weren't lucky enough to run into SuperShadow back in the day, he ran the now defunct SuperShadow.com, which basically claimed to be the ultimate Star Wars fan site, and he also claimed to have direct access to George Lucas himself. So today we're going to check out SuperShadow.com as it existed in the mid-2000s, see some of the best parts of it, check out some of the gold, because really there was some gold there, and just basically reminisce. This is going to be really nostalgic for me because I remember being like a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid going on SuperShadow.com, so this is going to be a lot of fun. So as my loyal viewers will know, I often like to preface my discussions with just a bit of a warning, and I'm going to do so today. SuperShadow was most likely a troll, and parts of his profile and his webpage were probably meant to be satire. That being said, this was an extremely dedicated and long project. He updated this almost daily for, I think, from 1999 to 2011. So, satire or not, I think this is still worth looking at. And his work actually had a pretty big impact on the internet at the time. He was, for a while, one of the more predominant sources for Star Wars, and I'm putting quotations here, news. And the uninformed or the unknowledgeable would stumble upon his site and think that they had discovered a gold mine of leaks and whatnot. Also, particularly with the prequel trilogy, he did make an effort to find actual leaks and to put together things that other people had leaked. He, like, at one point before episode 3 came out, he had a pretty workable version of the script. So, well, some elements of this were obviously satire, some were less so. So yeah, keep that in mind. So using the wonderful site waybackmachine.com, we've managed to access SuperShadow as it existed in August of 2005. This is probably right in the golden age. And I'm going to put a link to the Wayback Machine in the description. I highly recommend that you guys take a look at SuperShadow.com because it is just so funny, it's so interesting, and it's really bizarre in a way that's super entertaining. So just check it out and post some of the stuff that you find in the comment section because I wish I could go through all of it, but I just can't. So in this video, we're obviously not going to go through the whole website either. It's just too massive, but I thought we'd look at some of the fun highlights. So the first thing you'll notice is that SuperShadow was extremely active. He updated the site almost every day, and I imagine he was probably getting some pretty good ad revenue too. Some days he would pretend that he had George Lucas on for interviews. Some days he would answer questions himself. It was really fun, and every day, you know, and this was him 100% acting as if he had real Star Wars spoilers and stuff. So just let's take a look at some of the stuff on the front page here. So here's a supposed fan who sent SuperShadow a question. He says, SuperShadow, I was wondering, since Mr. Lucas won't give us a scene with Anakin slaughtering the Jedi in Revenge of the Sith, perhaps you can make it happen in Episode 7. To which SuperShadow responds, killer idea, I will give this one a shot, suggesting that he has direct access to George Lucas. Right below that, you can click on the exclusive George Lucas interviews, which, I mean, wow, direct access to George Lucas. And again, you guys can click that to see SuperShadow pretending to be George Lucas and answering fan questions. It's all very fun. But I'm not going to go too deep into that because it's just so much. And of course there's a fun navigation bar on the left, so that's where the real gold is hidden. So let's take a look in here. We have, of course, an episode 8 script plot, which, I mean, why haven't I looked here before for my videos? Let's just check this out. Again, not to get too in depth into the madness, but apparently episode 8 is about Luke Skywalker, Mara Jade, C-3PO, and R2-D2 on a secret mission to Mon Calamari. That's drastically different than where we left off in Episode 7, so that should be interesting to see how we get there. Apparently in Episode 7 as well, the Dark Jedi had their secret base destroyed by the good guys, so I also missed that. I wasn't paying enough attention. It's actually funny, at one point, SuperShadow's supposed episode synopsis went all the way up to Episode 12 and beyond, I actually believe. And he also had synopsis for Indiana Jones and for other movies, so it was all very fantastical and fun. I mean, and as a kid, it was fun to read all that stuff. But I mean, you also kind of wonder just how much time did this guy have? So there's also a few parts of this sidebar that are absolutely infamous just because of how influential they were on the internet at the time. So there's Star Wars, the most powerful Jedi Knights, the most powerful Sith Lords, and the midichlorian list. Now, of course, this is all bunk, but people read this and they believed it to be 100% true. According to SuperShadow, the most powerful Jedi is Luke Skywalker, then Yoda, then Anon Jertis, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Kaja Sinis, and again, half of these people are made up, and then, CC Donaway, Kyle Katarn is in there, which is kind of cool. Anakin Solo, son of Han Solo, and Princess Leia. Just crazy. Although, of course, half these characters, like Anakin Solo, actually did exist at the time. His ranking is, of course, completely made up, and there are a ton of other characters in here that are made up. So check out the most powerful Jedi Knights, most powerful Sith Lords list, and the midichlorians list to get an idea of what was going on there. And remember, these were actually pretty influential at the time. Like, people were citing Sith Lords that appeared nowhere else, like Darth Scars appeared only in SuperShadow's list, but people would mention him on the internet all the time. There's some other stuff on here that's pretty cool. There's like a fan fiction section, which is neat, although really it's the whole site. There was a galaxy map that was really, it had the whole, I think that was an official map, but it was really high resolution. That was cool. There was a book timeline and a comic book timeline. That stuff was all legit, so that was pretty helpful and interesting to have. But then right under that, there was a Princess Leia gold bikini picture section. And if that just doesn't scream the internet in the early 2000s, like, I don't know what else does. So yeah, I heavily recommend you guys check out this sidebar, see these Star Wars television show series you just didn't know about, see SuperShadow's answer to literally thousands and thousands of fan questions, although I'm sure a large part of that was just him asking himself questions. See the stuff he made up, see the actual stuff that existed. And then he also collected leaks for Revenge of the Sith at the time, because this was before the movie came out. So yeah, that stuff is all pretty fun. And it's a deep hole, and it's just a really interesting snapshot into what Star Wars was like back at that time, and what SuperShadow was like. So that brings us to probably the most infamous part of SuperShadow's website, his About Me page. And this is actually split up into a few pages. We'll get into that in just a second. But first is SuperShadow's girlfriend, so let's take a look at that. So he's got a picture of some girl here. I'm going to have to put some censors on it because it's a little inappropriate, but of course not his girlfriend. I don't remember who she was, and I just did a quick reverse image search and I couldn't find her. But she was some model from back in the early 2000s, and of course not actually his girlfriend, a theme that kind of goes throughout this whole website. So next is his filmography section, which is largely similar. So he basically claims to be a paranormal and cryptozoology expert, cites a bunch of these movies about aliens and whatnot, and of course, none of them actually exist if you look them up. So like The Legend of the Sasquatch in the Northwestern United States, or, Blessed with a Curse to Visitors from Beyond, don't actually exist. Finally, we have the actual About SuperShadow page, and he says, as you'd expect, of course, all information regarding SuperShadow is above top secret, classified at the highest level. Currently, nothing is known about SuperShadow except that he is very close personal friends with George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars. Below that nice little sentence, there's a picture of a young, handsome man and SuperShadow's logo. Now, of course, this man isn't SuperShadow. I believe it's actually the actor who played Darth Maul in Star Wars Episode 1, but I mean, just another thing to add to this, add to the deception, I guess, and the silliness of it all. Kind of similar to that, and I can't find it now, but in one of SuperShadow's questions and answers, he actually claimed that you could see him in one of the Star Wars movies. I think it was Episode 3, and of course it wasn't him. It ended up being one of the designers or something. Or maybe it was Episode 2. I think he was in the background of Dax's Cantina or something. So, yeah, the information is clearly classified even above top secret because he himself is even lying about it. So that's basically a really brief overview of the wonder and the magic that is SuperShadow and his website as it existed a long time ago. But I know a lot of you are probably wondering, like, what happened to SuperShadow? Where is he now? Spoiler alert, the website doesn't exist. It's something completely different. But what happened to SuperShadow? So there was always some wonder about who SuperShadow actually was, and at one point people actually used a tracking website to find out that the domain was registered to someone named Mikey Scuttle. I really don't actually think that's very important. For a while, SuperShadow had his own Wikipedia page and everything back in the golden years. Of Of course, that's gone now because it's not very relevant. In 2006, in a year that was probably one of the highlights of SuperShadow's career, Pablo Hidalgo, who is still one of the universe managers for Star Wars, actually had to release a statement saying that SuperShadow has absolutely no relationship with Lucasfilm or George Lucas, and that the reports on the site are complete fabrications, and that Lucasfilm has actually taken actions against the site several times. So that's, again, because SuperShadow claimed multiple times to be either representing George Lucas or the Star Wars brand or whatever else. So the site puttered on for a while, and then, from what I can tell, SuperShadow stopped posting around 2011, and the website domain became empty. And it sat empty for a while. Now some other website is sitting in it, but regardless, we know that SuperShadow, as he existed in the golden years, is no more. And I think that leaves us with more questions than anything. Was SuperShadow satire? Did he take his leaks and rumors seriously? Did he have a mental illness? Did people believe him? I mean, I know when I was very, very young, I was reading his episode 2 leaks, and I was like, this could be true. But besides that, I don't know. This is just an incredibly interesting website, and it's a kind of interesting part about Star Wars history as a whole. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please tell me about your guys' interaction with SuperShadow. Did you ever visit the website? Did you ever, if you put a comment into SuperShadow, please message me immediately. I would love to hear that story. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I certainly enjoyed making it. This has been Eckhart's Ladder, signing off until next time.